Or like you'll see someone and you're like, oh, you could totally be a character, you know? And at night is like a great time to just do like writing sprints and get fresh ideas on the page. There's 3 clocks and they're not in sync with each other. So it's like, tick, 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 tick. Everyone was really nice in the writing community. Hi, my name is Rain Sullivan and I write sci-fi fantasy books.
Yeah, thank you so much for doing the show.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Yeah, so sci-fi and fantasy, always sci-fi? Has it always been sci-fi?
It started with fantasy, which evolved quickly into sci-fi fantasy, and I definitely read more fantasy.
Yeah.
Or I used to read more fantasy, and over time have tilted towards sci-fi.
Oh.
And so I think my work has tilted towards sci-fi. Every now and then I do write some thriller or horror, but it usually will have like either a sci-fi or fantasy element.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, but books so far have been either sci-fi fantasy or sci-fi dystopian or like have a magical realism brainchild that's sitting in a drawer right now. Yeah. So we'll see what happens with that.
Yeah, because that's always interesting for me of like what people read and then like what they write. Like I know a lot of comedians that are like, oh, I write jokes and they're fun and playful. And they're like, and also here's my murder mystery book. And you're like, oh, interesting. And it's like, I just want to do not comedy.
Yeah. And like, I read a ton of murder mystery.
Oh, really?
I love it. It's
Why?
like I don't know. I think it's I like the puzzles
Okay.
that they're solving.
You want to solve it.
I like trying to solve it. I think I like a dark edge with pretty much anything I'm reading. Like if I'm probably not going to be reading your like fantastical fantasy. It's going to have like a dark, gritty edge, like a dark fantasy or kind of gritty sci-fi. So I think thriller mystery is like scratching that itch, but I don't write it, which is nice because I don't want to write like a detective story. I mean, I have for short stories, which is fun, but for a whole book, I don't want to learn like the law. Do you know what I mean? I don't know the rules.
Like that that's what's stopping you. Because for me, I'm like, well, you know, with like a murder mystery, it's like I gotta write it backwards.
Well, that too, and all, but like, what I don't know forensics. I don't even really know what forensics means. You know what I mean? So like, I mean, I kind of, but like. I don't know why, like, isn't it something like 50% of murders don't get solved? But, like, why? What makes it so that it's unsolvable? Because in the books, they always can solve it, and they're so smart, and they know how.
Yeah.
And that's not where my, like, background is at all. Like, my background's in science, like, botany and chemistry and stuff like that. And so I think I like to pull from, like, that knowledge for my writing, and I have no, like, crime knowledge besides books I've read. Yeah. You know what I mean? So probably not, don't want to deep dive into that too much.
Yeah. The closest I've ever come, I like wrote like a spec script of like Psych just for fun, just being like, I really like these characters and I want to play with it. And then I was like, oh, what's that like crime solving world like? And immediately I was like, oh, I don't want to. You know, I don't want to.
Yeah. The only time I've ever like kind of pulled it off for a short story, which is short, so you don't have to go quite, you know, there's like way less depth, right, on everything. It's like moving really quick. But there was still like ghost activity. So there was wiggle room, you know, because none of it's real. So you get to like mess with all the bits you don't know. You can fill in with like spookiness, and you do look things up, and I do my research, but like to write a full crime novel, I feel like you gotta know your stuff, you know. Yeah. You want to pull it off.
Are you like a daily writer?
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, do you have a set schedule?
I usually get up pretty early and write in the mornings. Really? It's my probably my favorite time. It's like quiet. My spouse isn't up yet. I make my cup of tea and it's nice. And I do that. And then like I have kind of like your typical work hours.
Yeah.
And then I usually will get like it's kind of like the witching hour. Like my cats like will run around. Like that's what my brain feels like.
Yeah.
From like 9 to 11 p.m.
Okay.
So I'll have like this like, I don't know if anything I'm writing is good, but like all the fun ideas will come out. So like editing in the morning, great, because I'm like awake and ready to go. And at night is like a great time to just do like writing sprints and get fresh ideas on the page.
I like that. I cannot do that. I'm not a person in the morning. You don't want me editing anything.
Yeah.
I'm like, that's good. Like, I'm definitely like, I need like an afternoon, like 2 in the afternoon is like, I can start writing. And then, I'm also at like late at night, I'm like, all my ideas are coming together,
Yeah.
But I wish I could be the early morning
if
person.
It helps. That's my dip. Like from 2 to 5, I'm like,
really?
Like in zombie mode. So that's when I save like all my work emails.
Yeah.
Like just like, or spreadsheets or anything that's kind of like monotonous. Mm-hmm. That's when I can do that kind of work. But like 2 to 4, 2 to 5, if I try to write, it's just either really slow or straight garbage.
Okay. And are you like a at-home writer, or like you like to go somewhere, or?
Mostly at home. If I'm really like feeling stuck, I'll go somewhere. Honestly, I like being able to control the sounds around me. And like every now and then I'll go to a coffee shop and it's like the perfect amount of like teacup clinks and a slight bit of music in the background. And sometimes you go and like the music's too loud. There's a conversation that's like way too juicy next to you or political, and you're like, ugh! And then, you know, there's like a different sound system in the kitchen.
Yeah.
And you're like, my ADHD brain is like just tuning into everything but what I actually need to do. So sometimes I avoid going out just because it's like, I know I'm so easily distracted.
Yeah, I've definitely walked away from I'm gonna sit at this coffee shop, write for 2 hours. I'm just gonna get done, and I walk away with like notes of like the bad date that I watched happen. Right. Like, they were not into each other.
Yeah, like how not to meet cute. Okay.
Yeah. All right, don't open with that.
Yeah. Yeah, I do. Sometimes it's a great place to get ideas.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Or like you'll see someone and you're like, oh, you could totally be a character, which is great. Like some people, they just have this, maybe a look to them and you're like, oh, pluck. There's like either like a side story or something I can like build around them. But sometimes I'm fighting the double stereo thing. And there's a couple of cafes that do that.
Yeah. It takes me a while to find a place. Mm-hmm. I actually found a place really close by that is like kind of like normally like I'd say 80% of the time it's like a good fit. Mm-hmm. And nice. And so I'm like, okay, I found, but yeah, definitely. It's like just loud music sometimes where you're like, I just can't.
Yeah, or then you're like forcing like your little white noise. That I'll put that in like my headphones. So I definitely can't do music with lyrics. It's too distracting. Yeah. Sometimes like classical, maybe, but usually I'd go for white noise.
Oh, really?
If I'm in public and it's too loud, because I just need like everyone to shut up.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah. I definitely I'm a lo-fi person where I'm like, all right, this is the perfect amount of noise levels.
My brain will hook on any beat too. So even if there's a ticking clock. Yeah. This is like way too much information about how my brain works.
I'm the person that like when I read like a book about a writer or something like that, I'm like, I like to know the little things that kind of like add in.
Yeah. My spouse's parents, so my in-laws, in their like living space, which like if we'll visit them for a weekend or something, there's 3 clocks and they're not in sync with each other. So it's like tick, 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 tick. And I'm like, okay, I have to leave. I cannot be in this house. I cannot write here at all. Like I gotta go. So now you know.
I'm the same way. Like if like my girlfriend will make fun of me where it's like the little thing like that, they'll just get on my skin, and I'm just like annoyed by this like noise in a hallway. Like, some like weird dripping sound. And I'm like, what is that?
Yes. Or I've been to my friend's house. This is like forever ago, and I slept over and got up before her, and I think I was like catching a flight home, and she's like, "Why are the clocks off the walls with the batteries out? What are you doing?" And I was like, "Oh, I'm so sorry. I was rushing in the morning and I completely forgot to like reset the clocks." But overnight I was just like tick, 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 you know, like hearing the clocks, and I just can't take it. She probably was like, "Is this the beginning of a crime novel?"
Yeah. And I wanted to ask you about like one thing that I think is cool about what you create online and what I've seen is like you seem very community based.
Yeah.
And you put together events for writers.
Yeah. So when I started I was very reluctant to be on any social media, and when I started my Instagram, it was because 2 years prior, which was smack dab in the middle of COVID, I was told the most important thing for a writer to have is a community, because it's very isolated. You're going to want people to talk through ideas with, people who get what you're doing.
Yeah.
And that was, like I said, right in the middle of COVID, and I was like, oh, cool. What do I do? And I kind of hoped writing events would start picking up, but they were definitely slow to start, like any kind of workshop or writing meetup. They were all virtual anyway. So I decided to make an Instagram, and I didn't even know what a reel was, and just hopped on there, and then ended up connecting with people within like the first week. I was, followed a couple people. Everyone was really nice in the writing community. And then I posted in my stories, like, does anyone want to do a 10-page critique swap?
Oh, nice.
And someone bit, and then like we became friends. We've been friends ever since. And sort of, stories like that over time, where I just was connecting and trading work with more and more people. And then in November of 2022, me and my friend Jen decided to create just like a little writing group for a writing competition but challenge that is no more. But at the time, a lot of people were gearing up for this challenge, and I had never done it before. And it's to write 50,000 words in a month. And so we were like, let's have a support system. So we started with a Discord that, after the month, it was super fun for the month of, and then it kind of whittled down to like a few people who are still using it. And I created a group with them, and we've to this day have been meeting like 3 times a week on Zoom. And we're all like over the country, and actually met like 2 weeks ago for a writing retreat in person for the first time, which was super fun. But then last November, so November of 2024, because this writing challenge had kind of dissolved, that same friend, Jen, and I were like, we should create our own challenge and create like a community space, because that was so helpful for us as new writers, or newer writers. And so we came up with Pathfinder's Writing Collective, which we just made up. And we decided we'll do a challenge in November. And it ended up being like a big challenge that was like 3 months. And then we decided to do like March Madness, and which has nothing to do with basketball, and I don't know anything about basketball, but our version was just like, how many minutes can your team write? So we split I think 200 people did it. Whoa. And you would just track how many minutes of writing you did every day, or hours, or whatever, right? And it would add it up, and like hundreds of thousands of minutes were written amongst these 200 people. But it was so much fun, because you have we had the orange team and the green team, and we did that. And then in April, May, we did a short story writing competition, and now we're doing a bookish boot camp. We like when they're alliterative. That's how we ended up naming a lot of our things, which is just supposed to be like helping people write and, work on healthy habits that either have to do with writing, like taking in craft, or maybe journaling on the side, right? Like get the juices flowing, even if it's not your main project, because a lot of people really lock in on that like first book. Or things like move your body, right? Just to stay healthy, because again, you can get so locked in with your writing sometimes. I know I sometimes forget to take care of myself as a human. And so I've loved, I think the community is the biggest part for me. Like there was a time early on with Instagram where I was like, maybe I don't want to be doing this. This is so goofy, like to make reels. And then I finally like really found my people. Yeah. And I was like, oh, this is why this is important. And also, can I now do this for other people? Because I don't know. It's so hard at first when you're a closeted little writer and you don't know what the heck you're doing. And there's like 1,000 million sources online that point you in 1,000 directions. Yeah. And how do you write a book? And what resources do I need? And who's doing this in my area? And like, I've met with some lovely writers. And it can be any number of reasons why you may not click or be good, critique partners. If they write romance and I'm not a huge romance reader, probably not the best. I can read your book and I can give you plot structure and character arc feedback. But do I know like the key rules of romance? No, because like I killed off the main love interest. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. So, or timing, right? There was a group in Seattle that met at like 6 p.m. On Tuesdays, and there's no way I could get across town to get there at 6 p.m. on Tuesdays, so it can be anything. So I think the online community, wildly enough, was where it was at, especially 2022 when I started my account. I was still, on the edge of COVID. I think a lot of people were looking for people to write with and connect with. Yeah.
Oh, for sure. I mean, writing is daunting and isolating for sure. Yeah. And it's so funny because I see it in like all sides of writing. Like in stand-up, it's like you read maybe you read a book about stand-up or you go take a class about stand-up, and then you're still doing it by yourself, and then you're learning from someone that's like, and never wear a hat, and you're like, oh, I guess I'll never wear a hat, like, right. And you have like these like weird like strong opinions, and you're like new at it, so you're like, sure. And then it's like later you see someone like, and they're super famous and they're wearing a hat, and you're like, this doesn't add up. And it's like, I see that with all sides of writing, where it's like these like workshops or books or whatever can sometimes just, like you're saying, take you down different paths. Yeah. And it's always easier when you just have it might even be like one friend that's also just going through it and like learning and kind of bouncing off of each other. And then like in comedy, it's like, so much of it happens early on at the open mics, and it's like going to that with someone is like makes it all easier. So
and that's so so scary. Like I mean, a little different with writing because like I live behind a screen, kind of sort of, at least until a time, and I can't. My little brother is a musician, and he'll perform live, and I'm just like, I don't know how you do that, but you're so cool. So like, but like even him, like he wants a buddy. Like I could only imagine. Yeah. It's like, I would love a buddy to be here and encourage me, because it's nerve wracking. And I guess with writing, like the biggest thing, I guess at first, is like sharing your work, right? Like having, a friend who's not a writer read it, they might be like, oh, this is good. This is really cool, or something, and you're like, okay, but like what was wrong with it? Tell me how to fix it, because I know it's not perfect. Yeah. And so then you finally get into like other people who are like deep diving into craft, and then eventually into that like, well, here's the what they say, and then like pick and choose, right? And so I feel like everyone kind of comes to that in their own time, right? Like I'm sure with comedy too, like someone's like, oh, that hat rule, fuck that, something like that. And oh, sorry, am I allowed to swear? Yeah. Okay, well, cool. And and it's like, but you need people to do that, right? Because we're so trained to just like, your teacher says do X, Y, and Z, and so those are the rules, and if you break them, you're gonna get docked points or whatever. And with creative endeavors, there's so much wiggle room, and you'll see someone who's doing something totally new, and you're like, oh, that is so cool, or yes, but not for me, or how can I make that my own, or like, oh, does that mean I can change this other aspect of the craft, and can I make it my own thing too? And exploring that, and it, like, finding your own voice. It's almost like a second puberty, right? Like this like awkward phase of just nothing's quite working, and so you try on different personalities. And I mean, and that's true, I'm sure, with comedy, and it's true with writing, right? You gotta like find your voice, and then once you find your voice, you realize like, oh, you can have more than one voice. Okay, cool, because these are my different characters, and there's still me, there's still that part of it, but and
comedy's a little weird because you most likely will just try on different personalities or writing styles or whatever, and then at some point you just what they often refer to as just finding your voice in comedy. And often it's so funny that's sometimes just you being you. And it's like you tried out all these things, and now you're like, well, anyways, this is how I feel about things or whatever, and this is my point of view, and people are like, I really connect with that. And you're like, oh, I should have been doing this from the beginning. Yeah.
If I'd just been myself.
yeah. And so there's that. And then also, like, on the other side of that is, like, I've always been like a weird comic, and I had weird jokes, and so fitting into like the comedy club scene of like, because a comedy club, when you're starting, your goal is to host or open for a big comedian. And so when you do weird comedy, the booker's not like, oh, not that, I don't want that, right. with this headliner coming through. So like I always had to like kind of find my own path, and that like ends up paying off. But like in the early days, it's definitely like a little like you're figuring that out. But it just makes me think that there's probably people out there that are like, I only watch comedy with people that wear hats. And you're like, okay, we're back into the hats, like that's
I mean, there's that funky balance with writing as well, because like once you're established, you can kind of write whatever you want,
right?
And that's how we get like the unabridged version of some books that are like super duper thick, and you're like, as a debut author, you just cannot get away with that, or very rarely someone will take a shot on you. And so it's this balance of like, I really want to keep my voice. I definitely write like punchy, kind of mouthy characters. So how can I but I kind of got to shove it into a marketable category.
Yeah.
Right. And so trying to align with some of the things to be marketable, right? Just like that opening piece, like you can't be too niche, even though some people are going to be like, here for the weird comedy so hard, and like, hell yeah. But at the beginning, you're got to kind of appeal to the masses, right? And so that it's really funky. You have to like, I want to be original, but if I go too quirky original, no one's ever going to take a shot on me. So I got to like find that overlap space of, appealing to the masses and yet having something new and fresh and fun.
Yeah. I mean, it's like we can see that like in the film industry where it's like everything's a sequel, everything's a remake. And it's like you could just see how when companies have all this money, they're like, let's take the safe bet. And that can trickle down into everything else. Like we see that in comedy, we see that in like where it's just like, what's the safe bet? Let's go with the safe one, and then sure, we'll throw in a mix here and there of something a little more loose.
Honestly, going and seeing, like, if I love going to the movies, I think it's so much fun. But I pretty much only go to like the little indie movie theater near us because, first of all, they just play the best movies. And yeah, some of them may be like up for some award that I've actually heard of and that I can't conjure at the moment. But other ones are just these like nobody's heard of it and they're so good. And I'm like, can we please amplify these? Like I don't know if like do all the masses just want to see the Avengers again? Is that what they want? Because I don't.
I don't think so. I really think like it's just like there's a mixture of people that are like, I'll watch anything and I'll put anything on a streaming service and just have it playing while I cook dinner. And I think that's like a certain person. But then I think like there's a lot of moviegoers that are like, oh, I would love an original script. I'd love to see something fresh and new. And I think not to get too far in the weeds on it, but like I think it's why we see like people aren't going to the movies as much, and it's like, oh, ticket pricing or this or that, or like we can blame it on a lot of stuff, but it's like I just don't want to see the same movie again.
And even yes, ticket pricing, but like people will pay it if they think they're gonna have a really good time. Like because I do sometimes like watch a trailer before, like I don't just go in blind. I like to watch the trailer and like see a rating ish to get an idea, and if it's good, like I'm excited to go. And like I said, I go to this little, I don't know if you've heard of SIF, and if you haven't,
I'm new. Yeah,
absolutely should, because can I say that you're new to this Seattle area?
Yeah,
people know where you are. Okay.
Yeah.
So if I don't know where near here, but there are a couple. They're called SIF, which is Seattle Independent Film Festival.
Okay.
And they have actual theaters. So there's one downtown, Queen Anne, there's the Egyptian on Cap Hill, and there's like another one or two that I can't remember. But they have, first of all, there's the Seattle Indie Film Festival event, which is super cool. You should check it out.
Yeah, I'll check it out.
And then they'll have all these like fun little movie deals. Like we have $6 movie Mondays. So we go to the movies at least once a month because we can just walk over to the theater, grab a cider, and watch like a great film that's actually cool. Original. So it's really fun. I can't even imagine going to the big movie plexes anymore. Just I don't want to see Despicable Me 3. I just don't want to. I don't want to. Like I'm sorry, but no, thanks.
Yeah, I feel like a lot of those fall into like a category of my brain where I'm like, I will watch that when it's on a streaming service, but like because it's also like I'll put it on. I'm very like I'll put a movie on and watch it for 15 minutes and decide like this is something I'll continue or not, and that's why I'm like I'll watch that on a streaming service, but like I want a new fresh idea for me to go pay money and go sit somewhere and like spend my night doing something for sure. Yeah.
Same with books.
Yeah.
Like if I'm not, especially after the like getting an agent process, like knowing how much rejection is just out in the world.
So much.
I'm like, okay, I don't have to read the book if I don't like it. Because I get like, if a bunch of agents can say to me, really great voice or really whatever, but nah, then I can also say nah and like close the book. And same with movies. Like at the 15-minute mark, me and my partner will be sitting on the couch like, vibe check. Are you liking this? Are you not liking this?
Yeah.
And we'll just ditch it if we're not feeling it anymore. But yeah, you want to save that for being at home or buying the book, right? You don't want to buy it unless I don't know.
It's a risk.
It's tricky.
Yeah. Tricky. Are you a physical book person all the time?
Physical books or audiobooks.
Okay.
I'm a huge library goer.
Okay.
So that also helps because then you can like just check out a bunch of books. And if you're not in love with it, you read a couple chapters and then you put it down and try the next one. With audiobooks, I tend to be a little more wary. I know they're very expensive for the library and I want to support my library as much as I can. So I will get audiobooks, but usually they have like a sample chapter or two you can listen to. But yeah, I love audiobooks because I just process really well auditorily.
Me too.
And I can be moving, which helps me stay focused.
Yeah.
I'm like washing the dishes or vacuuming or whatever. But,
yeah. Stand-up comedy, 90% of my job is driving somewhere. So audiobooks are like the way to go.
Lifesaver,
sure.
yeah.
It's like, game changer because it's like I've listened to every one of my favorite songs a billion times.
Yeah.
Let me please.
If I hear the song one more time.
yeah. Let me at least listen to an audiobook. So yeah, I like. And then I've talked about it on the podcast before, but it's like, and then I go through phases where it's like a type of book, and then I like listen to like 20 of those. And I just finished my phase of like every version of like self-help books where it's like anxiety or like people pleasing or like creative self-help and like all like just every I've listened to them all.
You listen to good for you books. I'm over here trying to solve the murder. I'm like, who did it?
Yeah.
Not healing myself at all, but I know who killed so and so in Dublin, Ireland. I've been like really liking this. There's this Irish crime novelist, Tana French, and I've just like been like plowing through her novels. They're really fun. They're really well written. Anyway, so I'm just twiddling my thumbs and imagining drinking a Guinness.
I will ask you, not on the podcast, afterwards, I'll ask you for suggestions of sci-fi audiobooks.
Sure thing. Sure thing. I will happily give some suggestions.
I'm like, I think that's like my next phase is going to be things more that direction for sure.
They're like percolating.
Yeah. And like biographies was one that I went through heavily. And,
nice.
Yeah, so... I like history, so that's like part of it too. So. I like things. My background is in biology and like health too. So like, you know, I had to take all the A&P type classes and OChem and stuff like that. And stuff. There's kind of like a crossover about like I just read. Oh gosh, Spark. There's like Spark : and like an 80-word title, and I can't remember it. But it's super cool, and it's about like movement and the brain, or fitness or exercise in the brain. Okay.
And I like books like that get to bring in some of my like schooling knowledge because I'm like, oh, I'm so smart. And then like mix it with something applicable.
Yeah.
But I haven't gone down the self-help road yet. I probably should. My brain probably needs it. But
there's some. I'll give you
recommendations.
Recommendations afterwards because there's some really good ones. But last time this came up on the podcast, we end up talking about where it's like you got to be in it though. You got to be in the right headspace for it because there's definitely times where it's like I just had a rough gig and now I'm driving home and then I'm like listening to a book about being a perfectionist. I'm like, I can't get anything right.
Yeah.
Like I'm stressed on the. I'm like, what am I doing here?
Let
me put on some music.
For sure. Time and a place. Not always the same for me, but I know like I was listening to this really good horror book, and I had my like headphones in, and I was either vacuuming or sweeping, and I just remember standing there because I was just so locked into the story, and then it could have been like 5 minutes. My partner's like, "Hello, are you okay?" I was like, we're at the end of the chapter, just it's so good, so also a time and a place. Sometimes I'm totally not functional because the story is so good, but
yeah. And so I mean that kind of leads me to talking to you about your book that's finished.
Yes.
And you are do you want to talk about like what the book is?
Sure. So my debut to be, if it gets picked up, is a sci-fi fantasy multiversal adult novel. Hopefully the first in a trilogy. So basically it's about this stressed out insomniac college kid who, on the night her dad is re-diagnosed with brain cancer, mysteriously travels through a portal in her brain to another world. And when her mom finds out she can do that, she's like, yo, we need a cure for your dad. And that world could have it, but it's really dangerous, so be careful. And she's like, great, love that. And so the main character is in this other world and stumbles upon a botanist who's like, oh, I cure things all the time. but I would really love your help in exchange. And since you have this ability to disappear every time you fall asleep, which, for her is teleporting back to Earth, and for him is just convenient. He's like, I would love your help in our rebellion to storm this prison. We're going to do a prison break, and we would appreciate your help. And so it's 4 points of view, and mayhem and botanical magic and kind of chemistry, with, of course, world hopping. So it's a lot of fun, and I love it. It has consumed the last 5 years of my life. I had the dream to write this book back when I was 18, and it was just a whisper of an idea.
Yeah.
And then it really, I had some trauma, some family stuff blow up. And suddenly I was like, life's too short. I have to do this. I have to give it my best shot. And so at 25, I started writing, and wrote the first draft in a year. Was working 60-hour weeks, so it was very hard to write. But in between, I put this crummy giant novel together. And over the next couple of years, revisions, got to draft 9 and was like, something is still not working. So I put it down and wrote a different book. And then I was like, oh, well, that book started at what draft 5 of that first book was in terms of quality and continuity and stuff like that. And so I was like, okay, so I'm going to go back to that now that I have fresh eyes. And I got to draft 10, and I started querying it, which is essentially pitching your novel to agents. You send a letter with the back cover blurb, essentially, a little bit of info about you, and usually a couple sample chapters. And you just send them and pray.
You just put them in a bottle, throw
them
into the ocean of writing.
The digital bottle now, thank goodness. In that first batch, I got either crickets or form rejections, and I was like, shit, there's something not right. Because I should be getting at least maybe a little bit of feedback. And as the field gets more and more saturated, that's getting less and less true that you will ever get feedback unless it's, I want this. But at the time, I was like, something's wrong. So I wrote another book and then worked on that other book and then came back to it and rewrote the entire novel from scratch.
Wow.
And I was like, okay, this is so much better. Tried querying it again, sent out another batch, maybe more 30-ish queries. And I was getting a lot of love the voice, super strong characters. Something's not working for me. I was like, okay. And one of the agents was like, if you want, we can chat about it. And I was like, absolutely, yes, let's chat about it. And she gave me some really good feedback. And I basically took the reveal from the end and put it in chapter 2 and rewrote the novel again, within a few months. And I thought I was going to lose my mind, but I didn't. And then with draft 12, I was like, okay, this is the version. And I pitched like crazy. Got a lot of positive responses, a lot of requests for the full novel. And eventually, in August of last year, 2024, I don't even know anymore. Right. Someone reached out to me and we talked a few days later and they offered me representation, which was really cool. And then what you're supposed to do is then tell everyone that still has your book, hey, I just got an offer. Anybody else want to throw their hat in the ring? And so then I got 2 more offers, which was super exciting. And I ended up going with the first person because they seemed the most passionate about it, the project. And so I signed in September. And then we passed the book back and forth. They're a pretty editorial agent.
Yeah.
And so they went through the book and really edited it. And then I worked on it, sent it back. And we kind of, hey, check this part out. Hey, check this part out. What do you think? And once we were like, yes, it looks good. Now it's on them. And so I moved from the query trenches to the submission trenches, which means that now my agent is pitching the novel to editors at different imprints under different publishing houses.
Wow.
So that's...
Congratulations.
Thanks. Except now I'm just like, we share a spreadsheet so I can see how it's going. And I'm like an addict. I'm like, oh my God, any updates? And there's like never any updates. I'm like, cool. I love this so much. So, so that's how that's going. And in the meantime, I have a stabby sapphic sci-fi that I'm working on.
Yeah.
Which is keeping me grounded.
I definitely want to ask you about that, but just go. Okay. I have some questions, like, because it sounds like, I mean, in total, maybe like 20 revisions or something like that. You're like,
the draft that my agent has that they're using to send is draft 13, but like,
okay.
I mean, sometimes you're working on a revision that's like, you've now read chapter 5 6 times this week. So like, counting drafts is kind of like, I don't know.
Impossible.
It's just, sometimes there's no end, or like, usually by the time I get to the end of a draft, I do a whole read through of the new version. Yeah. And you're making changes as you do that. So is that yet another draft? I don't count it as it. I count that as like a, quick fixes along the way, and part of that draft. I don't think every project I do is going to need that many drafts. I'm hopeful, like the project I'm working on now, I'm working on draft 4. And then I'm hoping that like, I have another couple critique readers lined up, and I'm hoping their feedback will be slight and not like big developmental chunky edits. But then I'm hoping like to do another clean read and pitch it to my agent. I mean, not really pitch it, but just send it and be like, here, have at it.
Yeah, but it's also like, each project is so different in general, but then it's like every revision you get 1% better at writing. And so then it's like between each revision, you're like growth, Yeah. But I definitely want to ask you, like, because you rewrote it and you changed it and you're getting like feedback and all those stages, was there times where you're like, I'm not going to do this anymore, I'm just going to give up on this book?
Several times. Right around draft 8, which is where I like put it down, right? Because that's another thing. And I think a lot of new writers do this, and I wish I could tell every new writer. So if you're listening, don't just work on one project over and over and over again. Because like you said, yes, you do get better, but you're also working on the same thing. And if you just switch gears, sometimes it can like open your eyes up to just questions you never thought of asking. Like, like I wrote a short story recently, and I sent it to my friend, and she's like, I love so much of this, but what if the entire setting was different? And I was like, and she kind of explained it more, and I'm not going to go into all the details, but I was like, wait, that's going to make my job so much simpler. It's going to help ground the reader. Love it. And so like, it's a lot of work to make that happen. But those kind of shifts, like, you can get yourself by switching projects. So like, pause that one, go work on something else. You develop as a writer in a new way, right? Like by switching up your cast, switching up your setting, switching up everything, the motivations that your characters are dealing with, you're like, oh, this character's full arc is this. And that little side character that has just been like a pebble in my shoe, they actually have a really similar arc. And I wasn't paying them enough attention. And so that's why they kept falling flat. But if I give them this little arc, like, or whatever it is, right? Like you get to borrow the lessons you learn from various projects to fix this project. And then, even that whole process I've learned from now until forever, until I die. I will always write the first draft and completely rewrite it to get draft 2. I will never do revisions on the first draft ever again.
Interesting.
That first draft is like, it's like going on a road trip, right? Like I want to hit the Grand Canyon, or I want to hit New York City, or like whatever you have things, right? You have plot points you want to hit, right? Maybe some big battle scene or some romantic scene or whatever it is. And in between, it's like, I don't know what gas station I'm going to. I don't know what detour I'm going to hit. I don't know who I'm going to meet along the way or what tchotchke I'm going to buy, right? And so that first draft is so explorative, which I think is great and so much fun. And it keeps it's like, oh gosh, sometimes you just know you're going off the rails, but whatever.
Yeah.
And you get to like learn your setting. Like you've thought about this world, but have you written what the lab actually looks like? Well, no. And until you do, you don't really have all the details pinned down. And same with your characters. Like, what do they look like? What do they know already? How do they think?
Yeah.
What's their perspective on religion? Like, you have all these little things that like sometimes you don't think about because you're like, oh, I'm writing a badass, serial killer, and they're going to do this, that, and the other thing. And you don't think about that until you get to that scene where suddenly they're having this conversation. You got to figure out how they think, and then you only figure that out at 50%.
Yeah.
So you're like, oh, okay. Well, the first half, they're not working in that mind frame, and they really should be if this is what they think.
Yeah.
And so first draft is to learn all the things you don't know. And even till at the end, you'll be like, well, half of this is trash, but I love it. It's my trash. And how can I rearrange it, right?
Yeah.
And so putting that draft away, and you can always reference it if you need it, and starting fresh is like I feel like it's like a little cheat code.
I love that.
But it's great.
Yeah, because I get so in my head with like what I'm writing, and like really like, and then I put up like let's say I'm doing like a first draft of something, I'm putting up all these barriers of like things need to go this way. Mm-hmm. And then if I just keep editing that, I never look at those barriers. They're just there.
Right.
And so then I'm like, yeah, they're there because of that. But it's like, yeah, exactly. It's like, what is the motive? Like, what about these side characters that could be in play? Because like I'm a storyteller, comedian, so like, that's kind of where I do the most of the story writing. And often when I write the jokes, sometimes it could be like 20 minutes as a whole, the first draft. Mm-hmm. And then it's like, where is this going, and what are the main key points? And then I'll just keep working on that until it's like, maybe it's from 20 minutes down to 5 minutes. And then, I'll shove things away for like a long time and then come back to it. Like I just did that with a joke that I wrote probably 6 years ago. And then I just started doing it again on my last tour. And it's like, it's an old story. I know with the key points, but then it's like, I was doing kind of that where I rewrote it in a way where it's just like, I know this goes to this, but like, what if we just had fun with this and brought in a different person in this character, it's I think I'm gonna steal that. I think I'm gonna steal the idea of like, let me write it, throw it away. Write it. Like,
it's so freeing because like if you did detour and like I said, like that like road trip analogy, like find a funky little gas station, right? And like find a funky little scene. You're gonna remember. You're gonna be like nervous that you're gonna forget it, but there's no way you're gonna forget it.
Yeah.
And if you need to, like a lot of times I'll like make a summary of the first draft. So if I'm like, where was that really like funny line or something like that, and I really want it, then go ahead and grab it. Grab some, if something really feels great to you, go ahead and grab it. It's yours, right? You get to play with the pieces. But I think having the like freedom, and yet so much more than that first draft. Like it lives in your head now. These characters live in your head. And I mean, one of my characters in my most recent project, like I finished the first draft, and only as I was finishing the first draft did I feel like I really locked into her like emotional journey. Like I knew her tangible goal, right? So a lot of times you're looking for that in a book, right? Is your character successful? Well, in theory, pretty early on, you should know what their goal is. And did they achieve it or did they not, right? And then there's usually some sort of like emotional lesson or something, right? And in theory, it's usually braided with that tangible goal. And she just did not. I was like, I can't figure her out. Like, she's just going off the rails. And at the very end, I figured it out, and I was like, oh, that's it. Okay, cool, fine. I'm glad I know it now.
Yeah.
And so I'm gonna start draft 2. Totally, her brain is just functioning so different for the entire story, even though, much like my original road trip, like, I knew I wanted to hit, what did I say before? The Grand Canyon and like and New York. Like, I don't know where this is a large road trip, but you know what I mean? Like, so you're still like, all the plot points are there.
Yeah.
They're just, the tone is totally different, or whatever it is. And shifting tone for 250 pages versus put that down and let me write it with a new tone, I think is so much harder.
That's so true.
You know what I mean?
That's a good point.
Like, I don't know. Like, sometimes I think of it like a graph. Like, if you have a line on a graph.
Yeah.
And this is draft 1, and then you have another line on a graph, and this is draft 2. They look really similar. They're almost parallel, whatever. Right? They're very close. But how many points actually line up, or how many points are you pulling up to be on draft 2 level instead of draft 1 level? Right? Well, really, it's all of them, right? Or whatever your shape is, right?
Yeah.
So maybe there are points where they overlap or something, but more often than not, I'm working so hard to keep something that really doesn't probably need to be kept.
Yeah.
And trying to make it sound different, and it's
I'm like, that's anything that I write. I'm like, for some reason, I go, well, it has to be in there. Why? I don't know.
No, it's hard to chuck things, and I'll keep I'll keep all my drafts, so they're always there, and then sometimes I'll honestly make like a dump doc of like, here's the version I like the best, and here's me trimming it down. And these are the amazing, amazing lines that I had to cut. And like, I don't know how often I'll go back into that dump doc. I think I've gone in like twice to be like, wait, no. Yeah. That actually works 5 chapters later.
Yeah.
Cool. And things for me, like, I feel like for some writers, these might be freebies, right? Like setting. Mm-hmm. If you're in the same room and you're going to describe it the same way, you want to snag a couple sentences, fine, cool. Right. Or maybe the punchline for you is, that's the punchline. This is where this is going. But yeah, that's, so after 8 rounds of revision, I would say, to answer your original question, is where I thought, I'm giving up. Like, this book is totally not working.
Yeah.
And there's a common saying in writing that, like, your first book is probably not your first book.
Yeah, and I think that's fair. With anything that you write, like comedy or movie or anything, it's like, I think you should, your original idea or whatever is like, you should write it out. You should. And then it's like, often it's like, but then write a third or, a fourth or whatever thing. And then you'll kind of maybe feel different about those 4 as a whole and be like, oh yeah, number 2 was the best.
Right. And I know some writers who are like, the first book I wrote, great. And I kind of put it away, and or even 2, and then like decided that third one was like, this is the one that I think is queryable or whatever. And I think all the books in between made it so that I could eventually come back to the idea.
Yeah.
And do what I should have done from the get-go, which was like scrap so much of it. Which is, there's no way to know until you know. Until you figure that system out. And
I mean, like, how many times have I made something and then just like deleted it, or whatever, it's like, so it's like, you don't know until it's like finished. And like, like one of the things that we made that's on Amazon, like Zen Comedy, I think is like funny enough. The second project I did, like the Big Laugh TV show, was the first one, very similar, project, and spent a long time on it. And then the second version, Zen Comedy, very similar idea. And then I feel like I edited that twice as long, and it's like, I thought I learned all the things, but then it's like, you don't, and you're like replaying, so yeah. So what are you working on currently?
That's my stabby, sapphic, sci-fi dystopian.
Yeah.
It's it's like if the world we're living in today just kept going down the path it's going.
Okay.
Except there's like a magical drug that really it like takes the extremes of today and just like flings them to the edges, right? So you like middle class is like nothing anymore. Yeah. And basically, you know, one woman's given an assignment to deliver another woman to a destination, and she just thinks, okay, I'm a delivery boy. That's all I gotta do. I gotta do the job because I want to get this drug. Yeah. And so she's been fiending after this drug, and the other character has, of course, a secret, and it's not that simple, and has a plan of her own, and so she needs to get to this destination for a very different reason, or close destinations. And you know, it sort of centers around bodily autonomy and definitely eat the rich. Okay. And that's some of the issues that unfortunately we're seeing just get it's painful to watch the news. Yeah. But yeah, so it's that, but then there's like a romance arc, and there's lots of...
That seems like something I would read, for sure.
murder, and it's just fun.
Yeah.
It's a lot of fun.
That's great. Yeah. And you said, like, you're, like, on which revision of that right now? And like,
so that's, I'm in the 4th draft.
Oh, yeah.
But I think, so because I had this knowledge that I figured out about this rewriting process, like I wrote the first draft in 2023. Okay. And then was like, I had the book that I was trying to query and and all these other things that I was working on. So it kind of just sat for not quite a year. I worked on it last summer and decided like draft 1 is sitting over here. Plus I'd had enough time to not feel so attached to it. So for all I know, there are some amazing lines that are sitting in draft 1 that oh well, they're gone. Like it's okay, you know. Like if I really want to go back someday, I guess I can, but I never will. So then I had draft 2, which was feeling pretty strong. Sent it to a beta reader, reworked it into draft 3, sent it to a beta reader, and now with her feedback, I'm reworking it into draft 4. And nice. I'm thinking draft 4 or maybe like 4.5 after another round of beta readers, but I'm thinking they're going to be a relatively light pass. Like find anything that's weird, anything that's confusing. That's great. Yeah. The nice thing now that I have my agent is I can like ship it to them and be like, this is now your problem. I mean, I want it to be clean. I like, for sure, perfectionist vibes. I want to like be like, don't you think I'm perfect? Like, you know, isn't this amazing?
This was just draft 1.
Yeah, like, no problem. It's fine. But so to make it look like that, I have to put a lot of work into it. So that's great. Yeah, so I'm hoping that one maybe we'll join the other one on the sub trenches, and we'll see how this all goes.
That's exciting to have like 2 like just out there, you know. That's so exciting.
Thank you. Yeah. I'm very excited and also very stressed.
Yeah.
So
where can people find you online?
So you can find me on Instagram, TikTok, or Threads at write_as_Rain_Sullivan. So write as Rain Sullivan. Or online at rainsullivanwrites.com.
Nice. And where I always like to say, like, where do you live? Like, what do you use the most, you feel?
Where do I live? I was like, Seattle.
Seattle. Like TikTok or Instagram.
I'm primarily on Instagram.
Yeah.
TikTok is aggressive.
It's a monster.
I do post there. I've met some really wonderful writers there, but there's also like, it's just kind of screaming at you vibes.
Yeah, it's a lot.
So yeah, mostly on Instagram.
Okay. Well, thank you so much for doing the show. I appreciate it.
Thank you so much for having me. This was a lot of fun.
Yeah, this was great. And I've been your host, Zack Lyman. This has been Zack Lyman Podcast and outro music.